Right, guys, we're back, and the European season has started. Unfortunately, we couldn't get together last week to kind of preview match day one, but we're coming out the back of match day one for the Prem, for La Liga, for Liga, and we've still got a little bit to preview still ahead the next weekend with the Bundesliga and the Serie A still in the offing. But great to have you back with me as always. Also, I'm Quinny, and I've got with me Jeremy and Fedo. Guys, great to have you back. Great to see you.
Love it.
Great to be back. Go Leipzig.
Go Leipzig.
No, not go Leipzig. Fuck Leipzig.
We've been getting ready for the show today, and we've been going through all the kind of main touching points to go on, and I think that's still a bit raw from coming out of preparation for sure. But we had the German Super Cup, which is kind of like the tipping point to that league starting, although it wasn't scored an SO5 or anything like that for us. But the big news that we're waking up to this morning, guys, is Neymar is out of here. He is away to Red X-Land or Blue X-Land with Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia for like 70 or 80 million quid or something like that. Thoughts and feelings, guys, on PSG and Neymar?
Makes me sad to see him go. Like PSG has never been as non-threatening than when Neymar was playing for them. So now without him, they might have a team that competes for a whole season. I know, in all fairness, I think he's the epitome of a talent that unfortunately didn't get to where he wanted to be. Supposedly, he came to Paris to get all those Ballon d'Or, and then he's shown some great stuff for 3 months a year, and then didn't get to where we want him to go. It's weird that he goes to Saudi Arabia. Apparently, he said that he would come back to Europe in a year or two to make sure that he's ready for World Cup 2026. But Saudi Arabia, knowing Neymar's way of life, he's a weird choice. I mean, I'm sure they're in their little bubble and they can do whatever they want. But no online poker on Saudi Arabia. It's forbidden. So I don't know what he's going to do during the evening.
He's gonna bring his girlfriends all down to Saudi Arabia, probably.
He's gonna go with the VPN.
That's what he's gonna do in the evening, probably. And he will have a whole village. How much is he earning? 300 million in 2 years? I mean, you can buy a village of 200 million. You know what I mean? I don't think he's too bad. It's fine. He showed that he is not the guy who wanted to compete for the big trophies. As Mbappe could have gone to Saudi Arabia. He could have gotten even more money. He said no, he doesn't want to go. I want to win. That's the difference between world-class players and okay players who will sadly be forgotten in a way. It's the mentality, and everything that makes you world-class is only mentality. I'm not afraid to say that Neymar probably is more talented than Mbappe, but he just has the wrong mentality, and that doesn't bring you far in life, and not also in football. So Neymar going to Al Hilal is very sad because I love watching Neymar. I think every time I watch Neymar, when he's fit and he has joy to play football, when he wants to play, it's a joy. It's like really watching a kid play his dream at the end of the day, because that's what he is capable of, and he, in my eyes, is the most talented footballer out there right now after Lionel Messi, and it's a pity. But I think overall for PSG it's good. They needed money anyway for financial fair play, something like that. They didn't want to have him anyways. Luis Enrique made it pretty clear that he doesn't want him in the squad anymore, and I think it's the best PSG could have done. They got Gonzalo Ramos now, who's going to be up front with Dembele and Mbappe. I don't know how you actually want to stop this attack, because Gonzalo Ramos is a machine in getting goals done. He's a hurricane-ish style of player, and if you have Mbappe and Dembele feeding him, it's crazy. And the good thing about Gonzalo Ramos is, which is a bit underrated, is he's a super hard-working striker, which you saw already against the Lorient, against PSG. He was always pushing for the ball. He was always pressing. He always goes back to defend a bit. He's very, very, very crucial. I think Luis Enrique is going to make a powerhouse of him. I think Luis Enrique is going to make him so good that even the name Cristiano Ronaldo will not be enough anymore for him to start in the Portuguese national team. And he's going to be the number one striker for them for the next 10 years. And it's unbelievable. the synergy that they created is for once there, because you actually have a player that is completely fixed to play with a system with Ousmane Dembélé and Kylian Mbappé, and he's gonna put the goals in the net. He's gonna miss chances because that's Gonzalo Ramos, and that's what you're also gonna do as a top striker. It's fine, but he's gonna put the goals in the net, and that's very, very crucial. I did like Ugarte a lot, and Lucas Hernandez. I really liked what he did when he was playing at PSG, the game. And yeah, this game from PSG was not particularly so good. To be honest, Lorient could have won that game, and it was kind of boring to watch, very boring to watch. But it's the beginning of the season, and Luis Enrique is gonna put in the flair, and you had Ousmane Dembélé and Kylian Mbappé in the stands watching the game. So I think it's gonna be a tornado coming down to Liga, and yeah, that's what I could say about the game. Ugarte, I did like. He played good.
Fedo's gone all Ligue already. Just before that Al Hilal team with Neymar now, they have Neymar, Milinkovic, Savic, Malcolm, Koulibaly.
Yeah.
They got all those, all the Azari, that kid who scored against Argentina in the World Cup, Ruben Neves, Saudi Arabia. The day they come on Sorare, it'll be interesting. Yeah, the game of PSG, I think you're right, Fedo. It wasn't the best game. Lorient only had like one chance really when I think it's Lucas Hernandez who makes a mistake and gives the ball back to Abergel, and then Abergel hit the post.
Yes.
But they, like, everybody's talking about. I don't know if you guys read that, the record of passes, like since Opta analyzes Ligue 1, PSG against Lorient made the most amount of passes that has ever happened in a game. It's 1,000 passes. And so everybody's saying, okay, now we know what Luis Enrique is bringing to Paris Saint-Germain. Just the tiki-taka and just the ball's going to stay theirs. People are saying that it's sterile because obviously it's 0-0. But as you said, Fedo, when you got Dembélé and Mbappé on the sideline that are going to come in, it's going to be a game changer. For whoever hasn't read the news, which I'm sure it's no one, Mbappé will play for Paris Saint-Germain apparently this season. That's in the Mbappé Netflix saga. That's the latest. They said that he found an agreement with Paris, and then the rumors came out. One person said he's signing until 2025 with a clause to go to Real. One person said he just renounced his bonus. Like he gets bonus 80 million for staying one more year at the club. Supposedly he says he's not going to get that, but he's going to leave for free. Plenty of stuff. There's one thing that I've heard as well, that a couple of people have talked about, but not any serious media yet. Is that I think we talked about the fact that Mbappé, just like LeBron James, had founded his media company, and apparently he's doing a documentary on himself, and there's a camera following him for the past months or so for a documentary that's going to come out at the end of the year. And so people are starting to say that this whole mess was almost created on purpose by Mbappé to make sure that everybody gets in when the documentary is out. I mean, he's the best player in the world right now, so I'm going to respect him on the field and for what he does for France, but off the pitch, I just can't stand the guy.
He's not the best player in the world at the moment, but it's okay.
No, I think, see, when I hear that, it sounds so cringy. Let's see if like these things are getting done, all these kind of behind the scenes, fly on the wall documentaries. Like I really enjoy watching them and stuff like that. But if you're instigating it, it just feels so like David Brent almost from The Office, isn't it? Like if you're, I mean, that's the kind of kind of sentiment I get from it. It just feels so cringy, and just like, oh no, please don't. And then if he is like playing up to it and trying to maybe just, because what it goes like with all those reality TV shows is they're not really reality after a while. It's like half reality, half like, oh, okay, you come into the room again, but say this time. And then, it's all that kind of crap. So if he's going down that road when he's not training and playing football, I dare say his head's not in the right space. And, it'll be interesting to see. But, the thought of Mbappe and Dembele in that front three with that tiki-taka Luis Enrique, they could actually be really, really formidable this year, because Dembele and Mbappe, of course, both play for France. But see, whenever you hear about these transfer sagas between Mbappe or Dembele, they're always in the same breath as one another. Like, if somebody can't get Mbappe, Dembele, who they would want. PSG have been the loudest ones saying that, but other teams who maybe would like Mbappe but couldn't afford him showed interest in Dembele as well because of that kind of parallel. So having both of them, if PSG can keep both of them together without letting Mbappe go this year, then that could be a real that might actually be better than Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar in theory.
Yeah, I think it's scary, and I think Luis Enrique is the coach that can absolutely bring them to a Champions League title. And when you have that, when you think about PSG the last few years, the job was trying to make sure Messi doesn't get the ball and trying to defend low so that Mbappe doesn't take space. But now you're going to have to check Mbappe. If you check Mbappe, you got Dembele on the other side. If you can somehow stop the two, you got Gonzalo Ramos, who's, like Fedo was saying, is actually a very good striker, finisher, works for the team, and make sure that he himself requires two defenders on him to make sure that you annihilate him. So they're scary. Like their only to me their only issue is the goalkeeper. But when you have the defense that they're going to build in front of the keeper, they're kind of all right. So I like what I'm saying, unfortunately, for PSG this season. And I think that 0-0 at home against Lorient at the end of the year, we're going to look at it as like the one that got away at home kind of thing. Because besides that, I think Paris is off to the races, unfortunately.
Yeah. How did the best of the rest get on, Jeremy, when you were watching, or even yourself, Ed, if you caught anything else from France over the weekend?
Yeah, Marseille lost to Panathinaikos in the round, like in the Champions League preliminary round midweek, 1-0 over there in Greece, and the second round is this Wednesday night in Marseille. They played at home against Reims and they won 2-1, although they came back from a goal down, and Vitinha, the former Braga striker, scored, and he's worth 40 right now on the amateur, so he's probably worth getting for that. And then I think the team that impressed the most was Rennes. I think everybody kind of expect Rennes to have a very good year this season, and they won 5-1 with basically everybody scoring. Kalimundo, Guiri, Bourigeaud had an assist, and they don't even have Terrier yet, and they're already showing how strong they're going to be. So they're doing good. Monaco won 4-2 as well, with 2 goals from Beignet there, just 2 hours after getting I don't know what the word is, but yeah, basically not arrested by the police, but almost for some sort of sexual assault or whatever. The club of Monaco said that he's under investigation and you're innocent until proven guilty, so you're playing tonight. He scored 2 goals. I guess his head is in the right space. Maybe he feels okay about it. But yeah, the Marseille, Rennes winning Monaco as well. Lens, surprisingly, was up 2-0 and then lost 3-2 against Brest. I'm sure people who play Sorare would know that in Brest you got Pierre Lesmelou, who's a formidable scorer of the SO5 game. He's still there, and they have a couple of defenders that are worth having, because they defend well usually, but they also are pretty good in counter-attack and use the width a lot. So Brest is always a team that I keep an eye on. And then the last one I think that was sort of important was Toulouse. More for Sorare, really. Toulouse is that team that has a heap of under 23 players, and this year Toulouse is going to play the Europa League. And they were down 1-0 against Nantes, and they won 2-1. And Abou Klal scored, the former AZ forward. So a bit happened in our dear Hexagon, and we were waiting for some crazy transfer after maybe Mbappe was leaving, but now that he stayed there, we'll see. We'll see what happened. We just had some more sad news of player going to Saudi Arabia, like Habib Diallo and things like that. So we'll see. And Dimitri Payet, have you heard where Dimitri Payet is going? Vasco da Gama. Payet's keeping his utility and is going to play in Brazil. I reckon he can score. It can score well down there.
He definitely could. But I thought the exact same about Tovan when he went to Pumas or wherever he went. I thought Tovan would have been Tigres, like Cecina level. Tigres, was it? Yeah. But he didn't turn up. So Payet, like he could, but Brazil's a bit more favourable to some of those guys when they go over there. The old legend type guy, the Maverick. So yeah, he could definitely. But the thing with Brazil is that fixture schedule is just so hectic. You never know when guys are actually rotated, and it can be difficult to track. Mm-hmm. But But no, interesting start to the league in France. By all accounts, the main kind of show, the main party in town, I think this week, but was the Premier League getting back up and running. I know across the three of us, we caught a few different matches. Overall, I think from a Sorare perspective, there was two that really stood out above all else, is like teams that Sorare managers will definitely be targeting for draft modes, for limited cards, for rare cards, and everything in between. And it was Newcastle versus Villa, where we've seen like tons of action. A 5-1 victory for Newcastle. Eddie Howe's men are obviously in Champions League football this year. Aston Villa have got some qualifiers to do for the Conference League. Monchi and Unai Emery equally is active in the transfer market this summer. Both teams got a lot of promise and a lot of high expectation coming into the year. And it was really one-way traffic for like most of the game, obviously for Newcastle, but Villa looked okay for a short spell. I was really impressed, and I know we're big fans on this channel and on this show of big Sandro Tonali, and he really like showed up in the Premier League. Like I put a video out on my own channel today, and I basically just quoted, I don't even know who it is I'm quoting, but I remember all the Prem faces out there, all the people that don't watch anything other than the Premier League, saying 55 million for Tonali was an overpay. And if you were of that opinion, then yeah, now that you've seen him in that game against Aston Villa, you'll probably realise that he will probably go on to become the bargain transfer of the Premier League this summer, you would imagine. Great performance from Newcastle and Tonali, and I'll just give it to one of you guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything about Sandro because I'm not going to jinx him anyway. So I did like the midfield of Newcastle a lot. Sandro Tonali, Guimaraes and Joelinton looked fire, like really fire. And I think Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali, they kind of understand each other pretty good already, which is very good because when the first celebration he had, you had to see how happy Guimaraes was for Sandro Tonali. It was incredible to see just the picture. I can send you the picture later. It tells you more than any word. And yeah, I think on 5 of those goals, not the assist, but the assist before the assist was from Sandro Tonali, and which is absolutely amazing. But in general, I think Newcastle played really good. Sven Botman is such a good central defender. It's unbelievable how good Sven Botman is. I've always said that when he played at Lille and everything, I cried that he didn't come to Milan. Because last year they wanted to buy him instead of Newcastle, but then Newcastle offered more money, obviously. And but Sven Botman, what a great player. And Trippier, also pretty good. And which I was the most excited for, except my boy, but is Alexander Isak, also a very good goal scorer. He understands where to stand and how to play the game. And I'm looking forward to Newcastle. I think they played really good. They could have won easily 8-1, 9-1. Only Emi Martinez, who is a legend of a goalkeeper and such a great goalkeeper, made it out that they just lost 5-1, basically. It's crazy. I think he had a 40 score after a 5-1 game. That tells you everything. And he kind of nearly got a red card as well. So maybe should have been a red card. But let's not discuss about that one. So Emi Martinez, great. I think Tyrone Mings is out for several time. I think he hurts ACL as well, which is pity. But I think they brought in Pau Torres, which is not the worst replacement to bring in. Diego Carlos did get some minutes, which was amazing. Happy for him. Mm-hmm. And Diaby scored a wonderful goal. What a strike that was. Like, it was easy to make, but what a beautiful strike that was. Happy for him as well that he got the debut goal. I think in general, this Premier League game was this game week was the game week for the debutants. You say debutants for the first appearances to score the goals. It's unbelievable. Like everyone, Desai scored, Sandro Tonali scored, João Pedro scored, Diaby scored. So many debutants basically scored. That was very nice to see, and I was happy for them. And but I'm looking forward to Newcastle. I think next week that's gonna be a big match, and I'm excited to watch it. Basically, I think next week they play against Man City, which is an amazing game in Manchester. So it's gonna be hard. I don't think they're gonna win it. and I'm very curious to see how Tonali plays against a midfield of Man City, and how he's going to do that, and especially with Bruno Guimaraes. But I watched Burnley against Man City, and I watched Haaland, and Haaland is the best game player in the world right now, not Kylian Mbappe. I'm sorry, Jeremy, I love you, but Haaland is better at the moment.
He's in a better
he's a
team.
beast. He's a beast. He's a beast. He's a Viking, nothing else. And Haaland is great and just great. Kevin De Bruyne injured himself, unfortunately. It's not that great, but it doesn't seem to be too long. I think just 1 or 2 months, hopefully. But yeah, the City looks sharp as always, and it's difficult that anybody else is going to winning this league. The most I was disappointed the most is Liverpool, to be honest. I think they play pretty awful, especially after their first 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes, they were completely dominant. Like, they should have scored 3 goals against Chelsea, 100%. But after those 30 minutes, I think Chelsea took the overhand. And I actually think Chelsea played a good game, a really good game after those 30 minutes. Enzo Fernandez is a gem of a player who I am very, very impressed how good he was yesterday. Was Gallagher. Gallagher was so good yesterday. It's unbelievable how good he was yesterday. Thiago Silva is a legend, how good he still is with 38. It's unbelievable. I don't understand why because Reece James is the new captain of Chelsea, and then he went out and gave the armchairs to Ben Chilwell, who also had a very good game, by the way. And he's only now the 3rd captain, and I think last year he was the first captain or maybe 2nd captain in most games, which is kind of strange to see. Reece James seemed to be having a knock again, so Malagusto came in, but he didn't play bad, Malagusto. But for real, Gallagher, what a player he was yesterday! Crazy performance what he played yesterday, absolutely amazing. I didn't like Nicholas Jackson, to be honest. When I watched him play, I think he was he didn't.
Bit weak.
Yeah, a bit weak. I didn't seem to like him that much. He made so many wrong choices. He just ran into defenders, and yeah, he threw away loads of chances. Sterling did play good, a little bit under the radar, but I think he did play good. And yeah, but the best thing I have seen this Premier League game is how fuming and how angry Mo Salah was when he was substituted in the 75 minute. He didn't even look at Klopp. He kicked his seat at the end. That's how fuming he was. That was the game. That was my moment of the game, of the match day, basically.
Yeah, well, he was very upset. That was like the first time he won't be scoring on match day 1 in the league or something like that since he's been a Liverpool player. So some sort of statistic like that. Klopp said afterwards that he had no idea and he didn't care to that. But for me, like, the Liverpool-Chelsea game was a real eye-opener. Conor Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez both did really well in midfield. But see, when both the teams came out, the thing that really, going into the beginning of the season, I think we were speaking about this the week before last or whatever, but Chelsea don't have a midfield on paper. Like, they have Chukwuemeka, Enzo, and Gallagher. That's the only midfielders they've got, which is why there's this rush to get Caicedo. There's this rush to get Lavia. It's done.
Caicedo's done. He's a new Chelsea player.
Cool. So they've now got 4 centre mids, right? They might just about get by. Maybe another one might help them. And in Liverpool, very similar. They've sold Fabinho, Milner, Henderson, and probably somebody else. Ox is on his way to Turkey, I've read today as well. And they've only brought in McAllister and Szoboszlai. And then those players, that was the midfield. Like, the midfield was McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Gakpo. And I'll have a video on my channel on the board. So if you missed the game, but Gakpo was like recovery running, getting involved with the ball, committing fouls, trying to turn the ball over, like, in the defensive zone. So this game for me, like, I do think Chelsea looked a little bit better than I thought they might have, but neither team played a midfield for my money. You know, Szoboszlai was allowed to go everywhere and just, interfere with the ball. And McAllister was playing that kind of deep lying, almost the kind of same job as Enzo, but he's maybe as physical in that sense. So I think both teams will really struggle against any team that plays with a midfield properly, like maybe a Newcastle, for example. And I know we kind of brushed past Aston Villa. They weren't that impressive. Diaby got his goal, like we mentioned. But there's been a lot of really strong midfield displays from what I've seen in the league so far. Man City's midfield, as you mentioned, those top teams that will go on to win the league, Arsenal potentially, Declan Rice, Odegaard. The midfields for the best teams are like powerhouse units now, real engine rooms again. And I feel that Chelsea and Liverpool were very fortunate to play each other because neither of them had a midfield. Both were just happy to play some defenders and some attackers and go punch for punch, for the game. It finished 1-1. It could have been 2-2 with VAR and a few other bits and pieces. But on that note, the Liverpool attackers, I thought they all looked in pretty good form, pretty good fettle. I thought the defence overall looked pretty solid. And it is just that midfield. You just need something that can back in there so they can control a game again, get their foot on the ball and actually run some passing, because everything was just into space and attack with the front four, and then could somebody support them for a fifth?
Yeah, that's true. If I now reimagine the game, I remember that the left side of Liverpool, I think that was McAllister and Robertson, still had loads of mistakes in them. And I think Chelsea mainly attacked through the left side because they were not coming through the right side with Trent Arnold and Szoboszlai. I think they did mainly play through the left side. So I think there it just needs to be a little bit more coherent, more conjunctions. And but I think they're gonna fix it. They just need the six. They just need the number 6. Probably the most important role in modern football, anyways, and they don't have one, which is somehow mind blowing. But now they're gonna apparently pay 60 million for Romeo Lavia, which they were not. They didn't want to pay 50, but now they have to pay 60.
I'm pretty sure they didn't want to pay 40. I'm pretty sure that's where it all started. Nobody wanted to pay 40, it's like 30, 35, and now we're up at 60. So,
by the way, just talking about Southampton and Leeds and everything, what are those clubs doing? They should go for promotion. They're selling up every piece they have. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think when you look at just a little side note on that, I think these clubs are really looking at the Brentfords and the Brightons, and they're just saying, like, you know what, we can set, like, Tyler Adams was so close to moving to Chelsea. That's how desperate they are for midfielders in these clubs, Tyler Adams, who's injured and just got relegated, I am a fan of. I do think he's good, by the way, but like, it's not the profile you'd expect these guys. I know it is off, but they were chasing him, and that's how desperate they are for these guys. That's where they're turning to, But I think if Leeds and Southampton and Leicester, you can make 150 million sales, you can moneyball the crap out of the Championship and get back up, and then it's maybe one of these things where you kind of maybe uses criticism against the Fulhams and the Wolves and the Newcastles over the years, sometimes not in this iteration of Newcastle, but previously. They come up and then maybe just assemble a squad off the back of promotion. But I think those clubs, they struggled last time getting promoted because they kept a lot of their squad in that was in the Championship, whereas if you look at, so I think there's a little bit of that going on where it's like they can reimagine themselves now. They can have a clean slate and cash in a bit and go again, because the transfer market has been so active. There's so many. Like, if you look at the business on this little side note, we'll shelf it, but if you look at the business from a Sorare perspective that Coventry City have been doing, like sign Jairakes off to Sporting, and then they go and get Van Uyck, Sakamoto. They signed somebody else. They've got 3 or 4 like decent Sorare cards in their team. So transfer markets, it's the world's your oyster if you know where to look now, sort of thing. If you can be smart with your money. But yeah, I thought the Chelsea-Liverpool game was mightily interesting. And I think Liverpool, for me, still look top 4 capable and calibre. I heard some people thinking maybe otherwise, but I think they are just, like, they need a couple of mids in there, like...
They're going to... I think Liverpool's top 3 even. I think top 4... I think Chelsea is going to be a dark horse. I do think Chelsea's going to do good.
I don't Chelsea anywhere near it.
Especially because they don't have any competition. I think it's so crucial, especially against those other guys. They have to play 3 games in a game week in a week instead of just 1.5. It's just so important and so much competitive. I think just because of that thing and what I saw about Pochettino is not a bad manager. He's not the best manager, but he's not a bad manager. And you still have some pieces. I think Chelsea still needs a lot to be done, that they could attack the Premier League as they wish like, but I think they could sneak into the top 4 just because of that fact, to be honest, Quinny. Honestly.
Yeah, no, that's fair, because the fixtures, the congestion makes a big difference. There's no 2 ways about it. That's surely how Leicester won the league, and we've seen other teams break into the top 4.
Exactly.
Because of the lack of European commitment and stuff. So I'm all about that. One team that I think will make better use of that advantage than Chelsea is Tottenham, who finished with a 2-2 draw to Brentford. Ange's first day at the office in the Premier League. I'll just say, first of all, the dodgiest penalty, or the softest penalty you're ever going to see VAR step in and award. I just couldn't believe it. It was an absolute crime against the match itself. But, you know, post Harry Kane, he's out. He's went to Munich. We'll probably go to Germany shortly, I suppose. But that all happened really lastminute.com before this match happened. Richarlison, the front three, didn't really sing and dance for me. They didn't really seem to link up or do well at all. But from watching Ange Ball up close and personal for a couple of years, as the game went on, I think you've seen really strong patterns of play and really strong routes to goal of Ange Ball develop as the game went on. Even in the second half, about the 70th minute, Udogie was showing up in the right wing position, who was the left back. And you know, if you watch Celtic for the last 2 years, you'll get that comparison quite quickly. But there was a lot of that going on. James Maddison in the Rio Hatate role was phenomenal. He was like a little terrier going everywhere. He was dueling, he was tackling, he was going by people, he was trying to play balls in. And for like a real 60, 65 minutes, he probably burned out after a bit. But he was, you know, you couldn't get rid of him for a large part of the match. He was everywhere getting involved and doing a lot for the team. So I think the draw is very harsh on Ange and Spurs. The penalty alone, if you just even excuse that from the equation, I think they were probably just about good enough to maybe get the result. But Brentford, they weren't bad. Brentford were very, very good. And with that 5 at the back, it's really hard. Like, one thing I'll say just before I give over to you guys on this one, but see, playing that 5 at the back, see, one thing I never realised the potential you've got with that, or one thing I've seen in the Brentford match is they were a flat 5, and they sit, as you guys will know, you know, around the kind of 16 to 20 yard line. And see, if you've got an Ange Ball or any of these modern front pressing teams, see, front pressing 5 men and a goalkeeper, it just doesn't happen. You know, like it's just, you know, it's impossible. So I do feel that Brentford did a really good job of like nullifying a big part of, like, you know, the style of play that Tottenham are perhaps going for. And huge credit, I think, to Brentford. They played very, very well. All their goals, everything other than the penalty award, Brentford were good bang for buck. But good start, I would say, for Tottenham. Good, not great.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Quinny. I think obviously I was watching it mainly because Ange Postecoglou. But I think it was good to see that finally he gets there. And you know, losing Kane, I think Kane under Ange would have been a dream. But he probably knew from since the beginning that he wasn't going to keep him. So having to build around it, I agree that, like, yeah, Kulusevski, Son, and Richarlison isn't quite working, but I'm sure, you know, he's made things work in the past. I'm sure he can make it work. Madison was so good, and then I like the recruitment that they've done, because I think it works well with what Postecoglou usually wants as well. It's interesting to see Vicario as the keeper, and you know, you got players that maybe you don't expect to play where they play. You mentioned Udogie, like Skip was a little bit everywhere onto the right wing as well. So it'll be good to see where he goes. How many of the you know, of the bench player actually have an impact, because you didn't see Porro, you didn't see Lo Celso, you didn't see Højbjerg. So there's a lot of talent in that team. When you think about it, you didn't even see Solomon, who they just got as well. So we'll see what he does and how he uses all that squad, not having other competitions to play. Will be how, you know, how do you manage that many players? And I'm assuming that with the money they get from Kane, they might look for somebody up front as well, to replace it. But the same thing you said for those teams going into the championship and trying to spend no money, we've seen that Ange doesn't mind spending little money to get real talented player like he did at Celtic. So hopefully they bring somebody he really wants, rather than somebody who's just a name for Daniel Levy to showcase in his stadium. But it was, yeah, I enjoyed seeing them. Obviously, I want to see more. I feel like Postecoglou will maybe have a defense that concedes 50 goals at the end of the season. But as long as they can score 75, I'll be okay with it.
Well, one thing I would say on the defence that is overlooked from the match, and a lot of the analysis I've caught so far from it, is Tottenham's opening goal was scored by Christian Romero, and he got his bell rung. You know, like, he got up to celebrate, and, you know, you could see the birds flying around his head. You know, like, he was out of it. You know, it was Maddison whipped the ball in, and honestly, they probably broke a brick wall, and he's got his head on it and clocked his bell. And I don't know if it was a concussion protocol or what it was, but they subbed him off right away. You know, so not only was Kane missing last minute, but 15 minutes into the match, the experienced defender in the team, the one that's been at the club the longest, is off the pitch after 15 minutes. So considering those kind of little, let's just call them like handicaps, you know, they kind of went against them. dodgy penalty, losing Romero after 15, and Kane leaving the night before. Like, I don't think it was that bad a first day at the office for Tottenham, really, in the grand scheme of things. And I think they'll probably pick up from here. Before we go to Germany, I know we've not, across the three of us, watched much of La Liga. I watched little bits and pieces yesterday, and they're still playing football in Spain. Villarreal, by the way, look terrible. Betis look phenomenal, is one thing I'll say. I had one of my friends over in the studio watching the game, and he's more of a traditional kind of gambler, as it were. And I was saying to him, because I remember looking at Sorare data on the lineup builder with some of my bets cards, it had Villarreal as a favourite for the match. And it just didn't make any sense to me. It was like they've lost all their good players, like, really, you know.
I have put. I don't know if you have heard the podcast with Harry from last weekend where we did the predictions. Basically, if you didn't, go and hear that, listen to that. I did say that Betis is going to have a phenomenal season because they have a phenomenal squad and they know each other, which is superbly important in football to know how your team works play. And they still haven't gotten back the best players. Who's gonna go to Saudi at some point, anyways? But probably this season is gonna still play for Betis with Nabil Fekir, and he still needs to come back. So I definitely believe Betis is gonna make the Champions League this year, and they're gonna be the top four of the La Liga this year, 100%.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. I'm very excited to see Atleti. They're playing tonight before we're recording, so after we're recording, so can't really talk on that too much. I didn't see Real Madrid. I seen the goals. Jude Bellingham, Vinny. They looked pretty good, didn't they? You seen the game, Fedo? Yeah.
I watched Real Madrid. Yeah, I had on one screen I had PSG. On the television I had Bayern Munich, and on the other on the iPad I had Real Madrid. So I watched Real Madrid. Jude Bellingham is my GOAT. I love him so much. I love him to death. I think he's the greatest player ever. I love him, and he came in with a debut of 100. I think he just scored 100 just casually. What a nice goal he scored. He looked tremendous. I think Real Madrid did look pretty good. They're just suffering so many injuries at the moment. Militao gone as well. So basically, the two most important figures in defense are gone for kind of the season. They will be expected in end of April, something like that, which is huge. That's why I don't think Real Madrid is going to win the league because you can't. Like, these two figures are way too prominent in the defense that it could go right in a way. And I know they still have Rudiger and Alaba, but Eder Militao is incredible. He was incredible at Porto. He's an incredible player. And I think they look good. I think a shout of mine, I think he seems to have a starting spot, and I think he's going to start most of the games and play most of the games 90 minutes, which is kind of hard to get nowadays in Real Madrid midfield because you have so many options. I think this Tchouaméni is going to play most of the games and is going to make 90 minutes most of it. He seemed very on point. Carlo Ancelotti was very pleased with him. He took Camavinga off before him, which is a big sign. And Tchouaméni, I think, played through, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's going to be the starting six. He's going to be the new Casemiro, at least in this way. And I think Jude Bellingham should start the most games. He's playing as a 10. So people who said that he can't play as a 10, just go and watch some football, understand football first. And then, so Valverde, amazing. I like the midfield of Real Madrid is a pearl. Like, it's a pearl. I have not seen something like that in a long time. Vinny looked good. I'm not too sure yet if he's good on Sorare this year with this position he's playing at the moment. And Rodrigo also looked good. I think from football perspective, not from Sorare's perspective, those two could actually work, even if I said it might not work, but watching the game, it could work because they're just so blitteringly fast. It's unbelievable. Just have to give them a steep pass and they're going to get to it somehow. It's unbelievable, seriously, bros. And and defense, Carvajal, what a warrior. Fran Garcia looked good, to be honest. And I think they're gonna sign a new goalkeeper, if I'm not mistaken. I think they already signed Kepa somehow, or I think they have the agreement. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Kepa, to be honest. In my opinion, if you sign Kepa, you can also play Lunin, but they know what they're doing, anyways. Yeah, but Real Madrid looked good. Barcelona was a great game, very great game. I watched Barcelona. Just I don't know what happened to Pedri. He doesn't look too sharp anymore since from coming back from all these injuries. I think he lost something. I don't know. Maybe it's something in the mind. I think he's still great, and I think he still can become one of the greatest. But there needs to be a click in the head somewhere. And yeah, Lewandowski should have put in one or two, but that's it. Araujo, I think that's what the funniest thing I saw. He just catch the ball middle of the pitch somehow. I don't know what brain fart he had in that moment. Like, yeah. But other than that, I watched Valencia against Sevilla because it was so late and had nothing to do. I had Valencia did look good, to be honest. They looked better than last year, but they lost so many players, so I can't say anything. They're gonna probably lose Mamadashvili, maybe, I don't know. Who was captain, which is crazy. He was the captain of Valencia. And yeah, other than that, La Liga, I didn't watch too much. I watched Real, obviously, but I watched Barcelona.
Yeah. So La Liga's up and running, but now that we've got that done, Harry Kane has went to Bayern Munich. We had we had the Super Copa, so everyone thought Harry Kane was going to just show up and win his first trophy within 5 minutes of showing up. But RB Leipzig had different ideas, didn't they? It is a curse. Brother. So Sadio Mane's out and Harry Kane's in. And with Mane being the Lewandowski, I know he wasn't the replacement, but it was like, that's the big name signing coming in after he's left. That's not happened. Kane feels more naturally like the guy that should come into that Lewandowski role, fit into his shoes. But yeah, it wasn't to be on the night. I know he only came off the bench for it, but it was Leipzig kicking the season off with the party in the big cup.
Yeah, to be honest, okay, let me first explain something. First, I saw Harry Kane when he came for the medical check. I rode by because I always ride to, when I'm in Munich, I always ride to my office with the bike. So and the return, I came by the hospital and I saw all the press stuff outside of the hospital. It was amazing. So all the little kids running around wanting to have an autograph, but he didn't come out. So, so first of all, that I still personally don't understand why Kane did that. To be honest, I wouldn't have gone to Bayern if I would have been Harry Kane. Not because it's just so much work. In my opinion, it's worth so much more to becoming the all-time leading Premier League goal scorer than even maybe winning 2 Champions Leagues that so many other players also won. But nobody's going to be the number 1 top scoring Premier League scorer. It's only just going to be one guy. And he kind of lost this opportunity. Maybe he's going to go back to Premier League and score another 40 goals. But I don't think with 35, he's going to score 40 goals in the Premier League, to be honest. And that's why I didn't really understand. Obviously, Bayern Munich is a better club and a way better position to win the Champions League than Spurs. Nothing against Spurs. And it makes sense if he wouldn't be anybody else than Harry Kane, who could have actually broke the record of Alan Shearer. If he would have just had like 170 goals, okay, completely fine. But like he was so close, and it's like even if he wins the Champions League, don't get me wrong, I think he can actually win the Champions League now with Harry Kane because he is the missing puzzle for Bayern. They need a number 9. They didn't have a number 9. They need a focal point in attack that they can get the ball, so who just puts them in the net. A bit like PSG with Gonzalo Ramos, just on a completely other different level because Harry Kane is Harry Kane. And but just I don't understand it from a personal point, because me personally, I would rather not win the Champions League or even nothing, but be the bomber of the nation, like the best goal scorer of that nation, of that league forever, basically. And that's my title. You understand what I mean? Like
I think he's going for the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, no, he's not going to win the Ballon d'Or. He's not going to win the Ballon d'Or.
He's with Bayern, right? So maybe he's got the Bundesliga, he's got to show the Champions League, and then he's going to play the whole season in Germany before the Euro in Germany. And we've just talked about Bellingham, how strong he is getting with Real Madrid. So maybe England has a shot. I mean, in my mind, that's why he goes to Bayern, because he thinks that's his best shot at
Yeah, but even
being the
that,
first English player forever to get the Ballon d'Or.
no, Michael Owen did win the Ballon d'Or.
First
No,
forever.
since forever is what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but still, Jeremy, like, isn't it worth more this one Premier League record that? Okay, maybe you're right because Haaland's gonna break it if he's gonna stay in the league anyways. And
Well,
but yeah,
what I was going
sorry.
to say on it is, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. He is time is not on his side, right? But number one, Tottenham are not going to sell him to another team in the league. So if he is going to go to somebody from, without it being a free transfer, it has to be out the league. If you go to Bayern Munich, if you're Harry Kane, for me, like, he can only get better as a player there. He's going to finish more chances. He's going to be in a higher, stress environment, must-win situation. He should develop. He should go on better. He should be aiming to score 50, 60 goals in all competitions and go for a Ballon d'Or. That should be his aim. That should be his objective. And really, Bayern are not going to spend this money like we see with Sadio Mane, and they're not going to let him go for free, or they're not going to sell him for 10 million. Bayern will still want to get a lot of money back. Bayern don't,
So you think he's going to win the Champions League this year, hopefully, and next year Manchester United comes in and says 70 million and he's ours, and he already won the Champions League, and now he can go back to the Premier League and go and get that goal scoring record.
Yeah, I think he goes back two seasons, maybe one, but probably two, and then he goes back to anyone in the league. And then if he's on penalties, he's a decent enough team, he'll easily scoop 15 to 20 a season, even if he was 36 in a wee bit. So I don't think you need to choose between them both, if you get me. And that's when I see people giving resistance to the Harry Kane move, that's the thing. I think it's like, you don't need to rule them out. But for me, like the players, we're talking about Neymar earlier, and Dembele and Mbappe, and these guys have had infinitely more situations in their career to where the chips are down and they have to turn up and they have to do something for Brazil, for France, for clubs, for Barca, for all these places. Harry Kane has had a fraction of that in comparison to them. And you don't get that development staying at Tottenham, scoring 20 goals a season, finishing sixth, finishing fourth.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? So I think he goes there and becomes better, like in so many levels,
Plus,
I don't see it being bad for anyone, really.
Plus, I agree with you in a way as well, because Harry Kane is a kind of player, maybe not with 36, but with 34, he could still be in the prime of his career because he's not based on his body. He's an intelligent. He's an intelligent player. He knows where to stand and where to be in the right position to score the goal. Basically, he doesn't need to be Cristiano Ronaldo for that, or Adama Traore from based on physicality. So that's true. Maybe with 35, we still see him in the Premier League scoring all the goals because that's what he needs to do. He's an intelligent player. He's not fast. He's not athletic. He's just intelligent in how to play football, and that's very important in a way. But he's a way better, like 10 times better Luca Toni. But that's how he is, basically.
Yeah, I would agree with that. People of a certain age will get that at some point. Do we think Leipzig or Dortmund, if you've seen any of Dortmund in pre-season, feel free to chime in, but is there, or even Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen, is there going to be a worthy challenger to Bayern this year in the Bundesliga? It starts next weekend. Did Leipzig or anyone else, have they given us enough food for thought?
I don't
Kane
think so.
tips them over, doesn't he?
Even if Leipzig won 3-0, first of all, they had 3 shots on goal. They had 4 shots on goal. 3 of them were in. Olmo had just a special night. What he did, it was special. Bayern hit the post 2 times, and other 2 times Matistell should have scored the goal. They were just unlucky in a way. This game was not a 3-0 game, for not at all. I think Bayern was way better than Leipzig before Harry Kane came on, because when Harry Kane came in, it was clear that everybody just passed to Harry Kane somehow, and that completely destroyed the game concept because the balls were not coming to Harry Kane, because obviously they never trained together, and you just throw him in. It's even if Harry Kane is that good, he's not God. He can't make it work without knowing how to run and everything. And so after that, I think it didn't look too good. For Bayern Munich's build-up play, I think in the attack we are completely stacked, and I think we're gonna smash so many teams. I'm just very, very afraid of the defense. The defense looks so horrible. They don't seem to defend. Like De Ligt is the only decent guy. Kim Min-jae, maybe he's gonna get the groove, but he made 3 critical errors that 2 of them De Ligt basically had to cancel out in a way, and one Ulreich, and one he himself cancelled out afterwards. But Kim Min-jae, I think he's gonna be great. He's gonna start with De Ligt. But we need a right back. That's what we need, because Mazraoui, he leaves too much space open. I'm not too sure. And we need definitely a goalkeeper who is better than Sven Ulreich. Nothing against Sven Ulreich, but just in a better shape that we can contend for the Champions League in a way. Konrad
How far is Neuer?
Neuer, I think, is gonna start next year, to be honest.
Next year.
I think they really don't want to make it rapid. They say it's gonna be in October, November, but I think at this point, just at the start of after winter, basically, so he gets half a year before the Euros, and then he can play the Euros, because they really don't want to accelerate anything there. That's why I think Bono would have been perfect, because Bono is good enough for the first half, and then he's gone to Africa Cup anyways until mid-February, so you can just play Neuer then. And that's why I think Bono would be the perfect choice for Bayern Munich in a way.
Nice logic.
Yes. Konrad Laimer seems to be set. Konrad Laimer seems to be really set. He's going to start for Bayern Munich. I think Leroy Sané did play pretty well, and he worked back in defense as well. I was really, really astonished how good Leroy Sané is when he actually wants to play football. Gnabry, I'm not the biggest fan, but he did okay. I still think Coman and Sané is going to be the main wingers for Bayern. So much pace, unbelievable. So much freaking pace. Like, the one thing is that I was like wondering, wow, is Timo Werner had the ball, who's not a slow player, not at all, you know. And I think like Leroy Sané came from behind, like overrun it like completely, and sneaked the ball away from him. That was impressive for Leroy Sané. Then the whole Allianz Arena actually applauded him for that. So that's what Tuchel wants to see. I think Tuchel still has a lot to do, to be honest, and it's not clicking at all. But I think it's going to be a progress. And now with Harry Kane coming, it's rather late than never. It is kind of late, but rather late than never. And I think like in 1 month, we will see a completely different Bayern, to be honest.
Yeah. Thomas Tuchel for me is definitely the weak link in the team now.
For sure.
The other league, the other league that kicks off next weekend, we'll have back Serie A. We spoke quite a lot about Serie A over the last couple of weeks in terms of previewing it and getting set up for it. But I think, the only thing I would maybe throw out to you guys to kind of, for the final kind of segment, as it were, I think AC Milan have done a lot of business this summer that, I don't know, on the face of it looks incredible, but it doesn't feel like it's going to work somehow when I'm thinking about it. When I'm looking at AC Milan, I think I'm not sure that they're actually going to be as good as I think they should be this year. And I don't know what that feeling is or why that's there, but Loftus-Cheek, Musa, Reinders, Pulisic, Chukwueze, kept Leao, still get Tio Hernandez, still get Magic Mike, still get Tomori. It's a really strong team, but something just doesn't feel right about it. It doesn't feel as good as it maybe looks or sounds somehow, So that was just one thing I maybe wanted to throw at you guys. And I know, Fedo, you're telling me Juve are undefeated in pre-season and maybe a bit of a dark horse as well.
Yeah. Okay. Let's first on Milan. I think the weakest link for Milan is Pioli. Definitely Pioli. I think his antics are just too old at the moment, and people understand how to play against him because he always chooses the same system. He's very predictable in a way, and he doesn't really understand the strengths of players. I don't think he's going to do it because he's too good in offensive part of the of the midfield, but he wanted to basically make Reinders a 6, which he is definitely not. He's not a 6, and the problem with Milan is that on paper they look very, very good, but we didn't score a single goal out of gameplay in the whole preseason except Luca Romero's goal against Real Madrid. So there's kind of a misunderstanding. We need to get this link going on. We really need to start scoring goals out of the gameplay, not from penalties and corners or whatever. And I think that's the biggest worry. I think Tomori didn't look too good in preseason. Like, he's the biggest worry at the moment. He seemed to be a bit off. I know Tomori. I think he's a very good defender, especially central defender. But at the moment, me personally, I know how he can play, and he didn't play how he can play. Hopefully, it's coming back because it's a very important part of AC Milan. But we need a striker still for getting Giroud some minutes. AC Milan needs a striker. The perfect striker for AC Milan would have been Benjamin Sesko. Benjamin Sesko would be amazing for AC Milan. To get that deal done, that would be amazing. I don't know if they're even trying, because that's exactly the type of striker you need for a team like this. And on Juve, I think they look very good. They have no international competence. They don't have to play international. They're gonna just play every week their best starting 11, completely fresh. And Allegri loves to keep a clean sheet. He just loves to keep a clean sheet. And I think it's gonna work. I think Juve, for me, is the number one title contender if they get their shit together, to be honest, because the team is still the best, one of the best, with Inter and Milan. And just as it's so important if you don't have this double opportunities to also lose players of injury and whatever, it's super, super important if you can just get the whole week to concentrate on one opponent, and not only 2 to 3 days, because you can just train the whole week against Hellas Verona or Bologna. It's super important, and that's why I think Juve will do actually very great, and I see them as title favorite.
Yeah. Well, AC Milan did win the Scudetto when they weren't in Europe as well.
Yes.
So you talked about Sesko. Didn't G just join Leipzig?
Yes, but he
just arrived, right? He was signed last year, but he just arrived, right?
Yes, he just arrived, but he could just be gone. I don't think they would have had any problem with that, because he was in the Leipzig universe.
Yeah, he was at Salzburg.
So.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think if they would give them 50 million, I think they would sell him, but I don't think they give them 50 million.
Yeah, fair. Fair enough. I just struggle to see it with Juve with their stated midfield at the moment, composing of Rabiot and McKennie for the season as it sits at the moment.
Yeah, it seems more like being Rabiot and Locatelli. Those two seem to be the number one midfielders for Allegri at the moment.
Yeah, but I mean, like, McKennie's going to be playing, in the midfield as well.
Yeah.
I'm talking,
Depends, because you don't have to really rotate, because you only just play one game a week,
No, of course.
So you can just keep. I think both Rabiot and Locatelli are able to play one game a week, and I'm 100% sure with you that if you would have a midweek, then of course McKennie would need to play against Cagliari, against Bologna, for example. But you don't need that because you don't play midweek anyways.
I just don't think it's good enough what they've got there, But I say no midweeks. It's definitely got a lot of value, and we've seen lots of teams take advantage of it, for sure. So Juve could be a dark horse. It would be a really surprising one for me. Like, I don't think any of us are massive fans of Allegri.
No, I'm not a big fan of Allegri, but what he does, basically. And I think bookies have Inter as his favorite, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of strange, but they have a very strong squad. And they played the Champions League final last year. Of course, they're going to put them as favorites.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's quite interesting to hear about that they are the favourites because, no Dzeko anymore. Also, no Lukaku, which is kind of funny in some ways. No Brozovic. Skriniar's left. I know he's kind of been replaced to sign somebody. I forget who it was. And also the goalkeeper, they've maybe upgraded in goalkeeper, depending on how you think of it. Onana was decent, but Sommer is like probably a better goalkeeper, maybe depending on what your opinion is. I don't know. But yeah, fair enough. I never really thought about Inter in that way, but if they are favourites, I guess there's some stuff to
Bookies
back
say
that
that.
up. Yeah.
I don't think they're favorites. Bookies say they're favorites.
Yeah.
Did you watch Jeremy just outside? Did you watch Australia against France? That was incredible. That game was incredible, like for real.
I was at the for the people who care about this. I was at the at England Colombia. I was at the stadium to watch the quarterfinal of the World Cup, England Colombia, and I was watching France and Australia in the hotel before I walked to the stadium. And of course, the game goes into extra time and penalty, so I need to leave the hotel before the game is over. So I left the hotel during the penalty shootout, and by the time from leaving the hotel to go to the stadium, the penalty shootout was still going on because it ended up being
it's crazy.
20 takers or like 10 on each team.
Yeah.
And at first I was on my phone, and then at the end, because I was struggling to find the door at the entrance of the stadium, and I'm with my partner and my kids, so I kind of have to look around me and not only at my phone. But I was just listening to the crowd, and it was like, oh, and then at one point it was too many applause, and I was like, I had my French jersey on, and I was like, fuck, I'm in the wrong country to wear my French jersey right now.
Yeah.
I kept it all night. It was tough.
Oh, nightmare. Well, yeah.
Next time.
Next time. Well, guys, I'm looking forward to what will be the first weekend of all the things happening. All the teams will be out, all the games will be on, and, you know, getting back together next week to go over the latest and greatest. It's been an absolute pleasure, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.
Take care, bud.